Welcome again. My name's Betsy Dalton. I am a member of the steering committee for the Include Collaboratory, your hosts for today's webinar, and I'm also a member of our professional development team. This webinar is the second in a series of webinars we're holding this year on examples of access, inclusion, and universal design for learning in higher education around the world. And we're so pleased to have all of you with us today, and particularly pleased to have our wonderful presenter, Virna Rossi. And Virna Rossi is a very innovative educator working with Ravensbourne University in London, England. And she'll be presenting today on the rear view mirror and her perspective on the use of UDL. Just a bit about Virna. She first became connected with the Include Collaboratory early last year when she started to develop a number of very innovative videos that helped educators to learn how to transition from to online learning from face-to-face learning when the pandemic started. And she and Sean Bracken, who's also on our steering committee, have known each other for quite a while. So we became aware of these wonderful videos, and they actually are all hosted on the Include website, which you see the link to at the top of the screen there with the Include logo. So there are many wonderful materials, including this entire series from Virna Rossi. And today she's going to be presenting on looking through the lens of UDL principles and practices to inform learner design. And I'm sure you're going to truly enjoy this wonderful presentation. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to you, Virna.
Thank you so much, Betsy. That's such a wonderful introduction. Wow. Thank you. So I'm really pleased to be with you all today. And especially as I've heard, this is a very global event in the sense that we've got participants, guests coming from all over the world. So welcome. And I hope life is treating you well in this time of pandemic still. I know there is pandemic fatigue, and in Europe it's a Friday afternoon. So I don't know where you are, what time it is, but it's probably still Friday. So you probably come to the end of the week. So thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate this. And thank you for including me. So I'm going to share my screen, and I would like to just make sure that I've got the right settings on. So I'm going to have the captions turned on, hopefully. Bear in mind that the captions are not 100% accurate, so I hope they will not distract you somehow. But we thought for accessibility, it's better to have them on than off. And also, just because we have so many different accessibility needs of people joining today, including visual impairment, I have some slides with pictures and only a little bit of text, but I will actually be reading and commenting, explaining the images so that everybody can benefit from the event. So I just want to say that I'm very happy to connect with all of you on Twitter, if you are on Twitter as well, or if you have any questions, this is my email, and then, of course, in the chat during this event. So I'm going to tell you what this webinar is about, my sort of intention. First of all, I'd like to review with you collaboratively UDL praxis. In other words, how do we put into practice the wonderful ideas and principles of UDL, this approach to remove barriers to create more equitable learning experiences. But then we're going to go beyond using UDL to design learning. We're going to be talking about how we can evaluate our UDL course design. And I'm going to invite you during this webinar to share ideas in the chat, although I cannot see right now, but I will be informed of questions, etc. But also we're going to be using a Padlet, and also we're going to have one opportunity where you can be in breakout rooms. And we hope you will welcome this opportunity to actually get to say hello to others and share your ideas about UDL. So that's coming later on. So I'm going to start by asking you to write some ideas in the chat. So the question is, what do you think is a game changer invention? I know it sounds like a random question, but just think about an invention that you think changed the course of history. But because I can't see the chat, perhaps if either Betsy or Shan or anybody can tell me what ideas are being shared there.
The airplane, the wheel, computers, writing, clocks,
Yeah.
internet,
Yes.
radio, plastic.
Yes.
The fork, the mobile phone.
Thank you. Okay, so that's so many different ideas, and they're all true and valid. And in fact, I was thinking the chat is a game changer invention, the chat in live meetings. But if you have read the blog, in case you've read the blog, you might know that I'm going to be using a game changer invention as a metaphor in this webinar. And the one I'm referring to is the rear view mirror. So in this slide, I have a picture of a car, and the front of the car with the windscreen, and then you can see the road ahead. But also at the same time, just above, there is the rear view mirror, wide, and you can see the scene behind, the road behind. And this is why this is such an interesting metaphor, because the rear view mirror has changed the course of history by allowing humans to view two visual fields at once, because you can, while you're looking ahead, pretty much at a glance, you can also check what's happening behind, because we don't have an eye behind our heads. So to me, this is revolutionary, but it's also a very interesting metaphor for a UDL in terms of course evaluation. So we're going to use this metaphor throughout this webinar. We're going to come back to this. But I also thought, in conversation with Sean and Betsy, we don't want to assume that everybody is 100% fluent in UDL practices. Perhaps some of you are new to it, but are interested. So we're going to just quickly recap what UDL principles and guidelines are about. And as I was saying before, UDL, Universal Design for Learning, is an approach to designing learning to remove barriers for accessibility for many different types of learners, for all learners, so that we can create more equitable learning experiences. And it's based on brain science on 3 primary networks. So in this slide, for those who can't see the slide, I have a visual aid which sort of turns the 3 primary networks, the 3 principles of UDL, and the 3 sets of UDL guidelines. By designing them, by drawing them in shapes, they form 3 people standing. So I'm going to go through this quickly. So the 3 primary networks are the recognition learning, the strategic learning, and the affective learning. And in terms of UDL, when we think about those in education, although there is neurodiversity, but we all have these networks, and the principles then that we can derive from these are representation, action and expression, and engagement. And what do they mean in practice? So what does it mean when we come to designing courses or learning experiences? Well, the guidelines, which are written at the bottom here, the 3 sets of UDL guidelines, are for representation, it's about the what of learning. For example, the content, the input, I don't know how else perhaps you call it, but what the learners are supposed, let's say, to learn, or what's in the program, the syllabus. So how do we present this? So the guiding principle there is flexible ways to present what we teach and learn. So it's not just one way, but it's many different ways and flexible. Then the action and expression. This is about flexible options for how we learn and express what we know. So when students learn new concepts and new ideas on a course, there is usually a practice or application phase. And then usually there is some sort of assessment. That's how we know whether we have achieved the learning that we had hoped to achieve. So the question here is, in the practice and assessment, is there flexibility? Is there choice? That would be a universal design way of designing learning. Maybe I didn't say that sentence properly. So engagement, the last one, is about flexible options for generating and sustaining motivation or the why of learning. Now, this is so important. Normally, actually, I mention this first because really, if we don't give students a good reason to engage with the learning, if we don't motivate them, then actually it doesn't matter how wonderful the course is and how amazing the assessment is. If they don't engage with it, actually they will not learn. So it's really important, especially we've seen in this last year of pandemic pedagogy, that we manage to engage and make sure the students are with us or with it, with the learning. So these networks and these guidelines and principles, they are interconnected. They're not segregated because our brain is one thing. But it's useful to have these three perspectives when we design learning because it helps us address the what, the how, and the why of learning. So this is what UDL is about. Now, for some of you, you might be champions of UDL, and well done. For some of you, this is new. Some of you are now thinking of, do you want to implement UDL or implementing more in your learning design? So I'm going to ask you to use a Padlet, but we're going to put this in the chat, the actual link, and you will see the QR code, but I'm going to come back to that slide. I just want to show you the Padlet. So the Padlet is a very simple representation, we can say, of these three principles. Can you see the Padlet now? Yeah?
Yes, we can. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. So it's called UDL Principles and Practice, and it's got a question here. How have you been able, or would you like, to embed UDL principles in your practice? In other words, you've now, I mean, obviously this is just a summary of a summary because there are books and books about UDL and many resources, but this is just the gist. So now that we've discussed the three main principles, thinking about your learning design for an upcoming course or one that you're running right now, I've written some prompts here. The why of learning. So how have you provided multiple means of engagement for your students? The what of learning. How have you provided multiple means of representation? For example, with a variety of input modes, neurodiversity friendly. I put some prompts there. The how learning. How have you provided multiple means of action and expression, for example, through formative and summative assessment? So I'm going to ask you to go onto this Padlet. If you have not used Padlet before, you click on the plus. It will allow you to add your own little comment, and it's already arranged in 3 columns. So you can comment on these. Just a few minutes. So I'm going to go back so that you can actually see the QR code. And is it possible to please put this link in the chat?
It's there now.
Thank you. And just wanted to say, if any of you have got issues accessing the Padlet itself, it's okay to put your comments in the chat because we don't want to miss out on reading your thoughts. So if you have to write it in the chat, you can write how you think you might be able to embed UDL principles in your teaching, or otherwise I'll see you on the Padlet. So I'm going to be just a little bit quiet while I see what you write on the Padlet. So I can see on the Padlet here, it says, can we also use this for... me see if I can read this.
Yeah, they were asking if they could use it for general comments, because I think there's some people can't access the chat function.
Oh, I see. Maybe I'm just wondering if I add a column here, general comments. And here in this column, you can add any question you want, rather than maybe putting it under the 3 headings. Does that work? Yeah. So some people have written here, let me just see. Oh yeah. Range of examples, case studies, yes, for the engagement. I strive to include different types of content, reading, video, audio, yeah. Yes, according to different students' backgrounds. Short animation videos, awesome. Structure the flow of the lesson, yeah. Yes, this is a model, exactly. Nice how you model this technology, exactly. Means of action, let's see. I tell you what's a bit annoying is that it's very narrow here. It all goes down, but I can't. Okay, that's it. Let's see.
Virna, if you wish, I can share my screen here. It's up to you, but if you, because I have a separate screen, and I could share it if you wish for just for the Padlet, if that might help.
Yeah, sure, but that's fine. The only thing is that means I have to stop sharing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll share it briefly.
Yes, please. Yeah, if you want to share this better. Thank you. I was saying the benefit of having 2 screens, yeah. Oh, yes, much better. Thank you, fantastic. I just have to make it a little bit bigger though. Can you make it just a little bit bigger? Or maybe it's not possible.
Sorry, I think I have to return to the other section to let people in, unless other folks can let people in. And I can return back.
Yeah, that's right, don't worry, the lobby's fine. I'm just wondering if you make it just a little bit bigger. Sure.
Yeah, I will do, absolutely. Just a moment. How can I do that now?
If you simply click Control+, that's what I normally do. It automatically makes your screen bigger.
Yeah, I'm learning.
That's okay. Yes, you see?
Oh, I've got it
bigger.
up here. Yes.
Please.
Is that good?
Yes. Thank you. Awesome. Fantastic.
And I'm sure you'd like me to scroll down a little.
Yes, please. If you want to scroll down on the, I think the how of learning is quite interesting about the assessment. I'm interested to see. Mid-semester survey to adjust course design is needed. That's good.
I'm searching out for how to scroll down on this one.
Oh, if you that's it. Just on the right, you'll see there is the scrolling. I mean, yeah, on the right of the 3rd column.
Okay, this one here.
Yes, just a bit down. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
That's it. Multiple ways of brainstorming. Yeah, offering choice of assessment type and style of presentation. Well done. Yes. So yeah, that's right. Video, podcast, essay, poster. So I'm sure there are so many rich examples. The good thing about Padlet is that it's living, so we can go back to it. We can add, include student voice. Excellent, exactly. Creating a menu of ways precisely. Allow students to submit video, audio, recorded work. Yes.
Fantastic, Virna.
That's really good. Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, so we can stop. If you don't mind, stop sharing that, then I can go back to the presentation. So I just wanted to literally do it live with you, that we could more or less brainstorm through Padlet ways in which we can, let me just go back to the presentation, yeah. Ways in which we can implement, embed the UDL principles in our learning design. So imagine now that you have designed or you have understood how to design your courses or modules or units, depending on where you live, using UDL principles. Now, it's really important. Sometimes we miss this crucial step to also decide at the outset how we're going to evaluate that learning design. So the next slide and the next point of the webinar is this: using UDL to evaluate the learning design. And this is where we go back to the mirrors, because in a car, there is a rear view mirror in the middle and then two side mirrors. And the purpose is because they provide three different perspectives to look at the scene behind. So we could take these three rear and side mirrors as the three UDL principles against which to evaluate how inclusive our learning design is. Because again, just like the three mirrors provide three perspectives, the three UDL principles provide us three lenses through which we can check that learning that we designed. So why would we do this? Because the same reason in a way that we glance when we're driving. So in this slide, for those who are not able to see the slide, in this slide there is a picture of a side mirror which shows the traffic, the scene, the cars behind, the road behind, while the car is traveling. We can see that it's traveling because it looks a bit blurred, it's going fast, it's moving. So that's exactly the point of this metaphor. The idea is that while we travel, in inverted commas, while we are on this learning journey with the students, which could be our course, unit, module, whatever it is that we're teaching, as we go, at which point and how can we check the scene behind, check our learning design with the help of the students? And why do we want to do this? Because we want to inform the rest of our journey. Somebody put it, in fact, in the Padlet. That is so crucial. If I don't know what's happening behind me while I'm driving, it's possible I'm going to have an accident because perhaps the car is starting to overtake me, but I didn't know, I didn't check. And in fact, interestingly, I was looking at some statistics that we check the rear and side mirrors every 6 to 8 seconds when we drive. That's really often. So because we know this is so important to inform the journey ahead, to get to our destination. So likewise with teaching and learning. Once we have designed our course, we absolutely need to design the evaluation of that learning experience, the evaluation of the design. Did it do what we wanted it to do? Did it work? Is it effective? And so when it comes to UDL, in other words, are we managing to be inclusive as we were hoping when we designed the course? So this is where I'm going to ask you for your second interaction to be in a breakout room. So I hope you don't mind, and please don't worry, you don't have to turn your camera on, but it would be nice if you were able to just talk with each other. And we were thinking of putting you in groups of 5, and for about 10 minutes, perhaps a bit less, perhaps 8 minutes. And what is the question that we would like you to discuss in these rooms? It's really to provide you with a little forum, a little cluster, where you can discuss and share ideas about how and when will you evaluate the effectiveness of your UDL course design with the help of your students. So it's not just about you reflecting or thinking about that, but how will you involve the students in evaluating your course design and whether your UDL, your use of UDL on the course is working. So I don't know whether this is possible, but Sean, the idea would be to broadcast, so to create the rooms, and then once everybody's in the rooms, to broadcast that question to all the groups, which I could put in the chat. And one thing is, once you are in the group, if you would please select one person to be the scribe, in inverted commas, who takes notes, if you can actually take note of the key ideas you discuss. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I'm going to stop sharing.
I think I may have inadvertently perhaps moved people into groups already.
Okay.
Okay. How long are they in those groups for, and what was the message that I should broadcast to them?
I'm going to, just one moment, I'm going to send you the question. I'm going to put the question in the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we're in groups yet.
Okay.
Oh, I see.
No.
Okay.
No, we may not be, but I think other folks are.
No, I'm still
Nope.
here.
All right. Okay, that's
I
interesting.
can see, yeah. Right, so in the chat, I'm now putting the question. Okay. Oh dear. That's huge.
Oh, I know what it is. Actually, there's a trick here which says in Microsoft that you have to start the room. So people haven't started quite yet. So how much time, Virna, should people spend in the room?
I would say about 8 minutes, and then we can send the question. I'm sorry, the question just turned up huge. I just pasted it in the chat. That's quite funny.
Okay.
Let me make it smaller.
Let me know when you'd like me to start the rooms.
Oh yeah, you can start them now.
Okay,
Please.
have fun out there, people.
Thank you.
I think if you type it in, Virna, it'll go
Yes.
slowly. Yeah.
Sure. It's just so funny how you do. Right. Yes, I got it now.
They're coming.
Microsoft Teams. Participation in the meeting indicates you consent to being included in the meeting recording. Call control region. Include seminar call audio provided the real mirror hosted by Rossi, Ravensbourne University. London. Sean Brackett joins the call.
I think somebody's on a screen reader there. Is that Paul?
Yes.
Hi, Paul. How are you doing?
Fine.
Good. Nice to meet you.
Pleasure too. I've joined the Elbrel device.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. And we're in groups at the moment, Paul. I'm not sure, and Julie. I'm not sure if you were part of the main body out there. Were you part of the main section, or have I just let you into the?
I was part of the main body, but it went off, so I've rejoined.
You've just joined, have you?
I was in the main body, but I've just joined. You can give me, you can locate me a group.
Oh, very good. Okay. Okay. So I think, and Julie, nice to meet you too.
I'm from Kenya. I'm a public policy scholar, a blind person, and yes.
Well, it's
glad
fantastic. Paul, it's fantastic to have you here. Julie, did you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah.
I think we have Julie Prentice here.
Okay.
So perhaps when Julie, if you can unmute yourself there. Oh, you sent a message. Nothing working except the chat. Oh, well, we're being technologically challenged. So, Julie, maybe if you can introduce yourself in the chat, that would be great. In the interim, what I might do is just introduce myself. So, my name is Sean Bracken, and I'm, as Betsy had shared at the start, I'm one of the steering committee members for Include.
Open sharing options button to activate. Press space. More actions button to activate. Raise hand button to activate.
The
Show conversation
question
button to activate.
that
Show participant button to activate. Press space bar.
Betsy asked.
See policy link. What is recording does content participate? List on screen only. Short bracket. Currently speaking. Press shift plus F10 for more actions. Press space to view contact card. Read only as pop-up 1-1. To vote. Calls region. Short bracket started recording. Link out on. Next concept of audio. Press space bar. Open sharing options button to activate. More actions button to activate. Raise hand button to activate.
You can take me to one of the groups.
And Klaus. Paul?
Yes.
We can hear the screen reader at our end.
Oh, okay. I'll put what is it called? I'll put a headphone.
Okay, thank you. So I think the question was, it's a screen reader, Julie. It was Paul's screen reader, I think. So he's going to, whenever Paul wishes to talk, he can come in and chat. But otherwise, I think it will just play in the background. So my name is Sean Bracken, as I mentioned. Paul has introduced himself. Edward, if you'd like to introduce yourself. And Luan Joao and Klaus. The question was, how and when will you evaluate the effectiveness of your UDL course design with the help of your students? Is Paul the only person who has the microphone option?
Let me try and look for mute.
That's okay, Paul. I can mute it this side, and if you want to chat, I'll put it into the chat function. So, Paul, because we can hear you, what do you think of this question? And if you can answer this question, that'll be helpful. So, how and when will you evaluate the effectiveness of your UDL course design with the help of your students? Or anybody else? Klaus, I don't know if you can come in. Or Luan Joao. I think maybe other people can't access the chat function. Okay, thank you, Luan Joao.
Sorry, I joined late. This is Luan Jiao. Yeah, I just joined, and in terms of the question, I think usually we just do the mid-semester and end of semester evaluation.
Okay, for me, just thinking about this, normally in terms of student voice, what I do is get peer reviews of formative evaluations. So I'm going to put that one in there as well. Thank you.
Okay, for me, I think it's that it's from the once you begin, and then you can do some assessment midway, and then towards the end of the course. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. And how do you evaluate the effectiveness of UDL course design with the help of your students? Okay, it's also maybe about getting, so thanks for your input there, Paul, which was about doing kind of consulting with the students at the beginning and then doing kind of midway assessments and then at the end as well. Okay, maybe I think I'll just send a message to everybody in terms of the breakout rooms. And give everyone maybe 2 more minutes. Anybody else from our particular group want to share? Klaus, any way that you have a particular way of involving students or evaluating the students in terms of UDL? Yeah, okay. Okay. Virna.
Hello, I'm back.
Hi.
Yes.
It's nice to see you.
No problem. So, Sean, could I ask you to close the rooms?
Yes.
Thank you.
I did send a 2-minute warning.
Oh, good.
So,
fantastic.
yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, so in that case, I'm going to go back to the slides. Let me find them. Yeah. Just have to make that smaller.
I'll just send a message to let people know that I'm going to just close those rooms right now.
Good. Thank you. Because I didn't know how to get out of it. So that's it. Yeah.
So if I close, I'll just close it now, and
Yes.
okay, and then people can rejoin.
Thank you.
Is that the only one, Virna?
Yes, yes. We don't have any other breakout room.
Thank you.
No.
Goodness. I think a lot of it. I think it was a bit. It was in a bit of a strange experience for some people. I'm not sure they're as effective as.
I ended up in a room. It worked well for me.
Oh, good.
But I'm not sure about the other rooms.
Well,
So
it worked well for us in room 9.
Yeah,
good.
ours great. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And
That's really good, because I just thought it would be such a shame to be in such a global event and not being able to at least say hi to a few people and
Yes.
do sharing. That's good. So welcome back. Perhaps, as we said before, if you don't mind to keep your camera off, just only because of the bandwidth, to save bandwidth for others.
Yeah, and also if you can mute yourself again,
Yeah.
that's helpful so we don't get background noise. Thank you.
So I don't know whether somebody's sharing, because if I go to share, I'm not sure if I'm able to. Am I able to share?
Yes, we're seeing that, Virna.
Oh, good. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. I'm really glad you were able to have that chat in the breakout rooms. So I just wanted to ask you if you maybe for ease, if we can put that link of the Padlet again. I just wanted to ask people to write here in this column. So I've added evaluation. How and when will you evaluate the effectiveness of your UDL course design with the help of your students? So if that's okay, just one person per group, or anybody really, you can write your ideas. Plus delta, that's interesting. But you'll have to explain a little bit more what that means. I don't know who's written. Well, this is the wonderful thing about Padlet, is that most of the comments are anonymous. So I do not know who's written it. So you can feel totally safe. You can write. You don't have to worry. Reflection is part of the instruction. Make that visible. This informs the design and can also make changes in semester. That's a very good point. Yeah. Through formative assessment, yes. Very good point. Have to be maybe more intentional about gathering input when online. Exactly. This is better than reading the room. Yes, very true. We had an interesting conversation in our room about this. Evaluate engagement early on through informal activities, discussion threads, easy things to engage with. Yes, early on, that's really key. Weekly discussions on what we're doing for the class to see what activities are helpful. Journaling about what has learned. Yes, that's awesome action. 2 stars in the wish. I love that. I learned that from my husband. My husband is a primary school teacher and they do 2 stars in the wish. Self-assessment at the start of the course, mid and end, not just reflection, can use other methods such as acting, drawing, recording of student views. Yes. Actually, this reminds me, a colleague told me that her mid-course evaluation was to ask students to send her a 1-minute video, recorded, a selfie basically, with their telephone, just telling them what they thought about the course that far. 1 minute per student. And so she had plenty of feedback. So it's a really good point, actually. Yes, drawing from the ideas of co-creation, yes, and perhaps reflection. Through a focus group at the end of the year, that's really good. Except the only thing is that's really useful for the next iteration, absolutely. But then we won't be able to, it will not benefit this current cohort if obviously it's just the end of the course, but it's also very useful, yeah. Yes, the evaluation has to come through the initial design itself. Fantastic, whoever said that, well done. They are all excellent ideas, actually. I can't read all of them now, but you can, exactly, Google Docs. I mean, seriously, so many fantastic ideas and all of them really valid. So I'm going to, can I just ask you, do you, oh dear, sorry, I clicked the wrong thing. I meant to present, right. So can you see my slides again now?
Yes, all good, Virna.
Yes. Thank you. Fantastic. So thank you very much, really. So we've done 2 sort of big things so far. One is we have shared through a Padlet how we can, in practice, apply UDL principles. And now we have discussed how we can design the evaluation of that design well, mostly we're talking about in course, during the course. Now, I'm just going to share very briefly a case study using Ketso. I don't know whether you've heard of Ketso before. I saw Ketso about a year ago, actually, at the beginning of the pandemic, on Twitter, because I'm quite active on Twitter. And I thought to myself, wow, I absolutely love this tool. So it's a felt. I've got it here. I don't know whether you can see it. So it comes in this bag. I do not get a percentage, by the way. Perhaps I should, but I don't get a percentage. But I just wanted to show you what it's about. You get this bag with a felt, 2 felts actually, and the felt is a piece of material, and then a bag with these leaves and markers. And the leaves have got different colors. So then, according to whatever activity you're doing, you have prompts, you have mind mapping to do, or in this case, I used Ketso for my own self-evaluation. In other words, I sat down, I took the felt, for those who can't see the picture, this is a photo of this Ketso representation. I took 3 white shapes, which are the 3 UDL principles: representation, action, expression, and engagement. The 3 mirrors, yes, the rear view and the side mirror. So this was my way of looking back. And then I wrote in different, on these leaves, which are movable, so then you can sort of shift them around. On different colors, I wrote what I thought I had done, which was intentional. From the start of the course, when I designed the course, I was intentionally trying to build in, to embed UDL principles. So I wrote my self-evaluation, what I thought I was doing, in inverted commas, well. So for example, just to give an example, because perhaps it's a bit small, representation, I put guest speakers. So I teach the PGCert, Postgraduate Certificate in Education. So it's a staff development course, in-service course for teachers at the University of Ravensbourne in London. And I invited external guest speakers who had a range of backgrounds and, in fact, global. and different expertise and etc. And so I invited them as guest speakers onto the course. They joined our live lessons. They spoke to the students. They proposed activities to the students. They had slides. They had videos, links. So this was my way of representing the content. In other words, the course input was not just through me, but it was through these guest speakers as well, to provide a variety of voices and perspective. And this, of course, was also engaging, so it goes with engagement. Something else I did in terms of action and expression, I actually managed...
Sorry, Virna, sorry to interrupt you. Would you? I'm really sorry. If you wouldn't mind turning the captions on again, because I think we do have some colleagues who might be hard of hearing. So is it possible to...
Sorry.
Thank you.
Sure. So sorry. You see, because when you get out of it, yes, then it stops. When I clicked on the Padlet, thank you so much for telling me. Yes, sorry about that. So you can see then this Ketso representation. What I did, I managed to get the budget to buy one of these sets per participant on the PGCert. So the students had a Ketso kit each. And so at this point of the course, which was, I decided this should be a few weeks into the course. The course is for 2 terms. I didn't want to wait until the end of term 1. I wanted to do it in the middle of term 1, which was more or less 4 weeks into the course. I wanted to check with the students, has my learning design worked? Have these UDL principles created a more equitable learning experience? So the Padlet, which I have the link here, is not for you to do anything on, it's just to show you. This Padlet is the result, and it's basically the photos. This is a Padlet collecting pictures of what the students did. So the students also had the time in groups to think about the UDL principles, which were part of the course, in fact, and then they used these leaves to put the key ideas, whether I was doing it well, whether there was something else I could do. One group decided to do it digitally. They didn't use the Ketso kit, that's fine. And so this was very rich feedback for me. I'm going back to the slides. Was very rich feedback for me, because at that point of the course, first of all, it was embedded in the lesson. It was a learning activity. It wasn't an add-on, something shoehorned, which didn't quite fit. It wasn't a survey because there's survey fatigue. So it was a learning activity done together with the students. I also thought it was very beneficial for them because it helped them understand how what my intention was for the course and how I had designed the course, what I was trying to aim for in terms of inclusivity. And also it provides the students with very rich vocabulary that they can use to describe their learning experience on any course, on any module that they take. So it's actually, I think, beneficial for the students as well. And then, of course, because of that feedback, I was able to adjust a few things. For example, some students suggested that they wanted more debates. They wanted to actually debate ideas. And so then I added that because it was early enough, I could make those changes. I'm just aware of the time, so I'm sorry, I have to keep going. Just then finally to say, now, if you are a UDL champion, you have been using UDL for many years, well done. But I think we can all refine our practices. There's always maybe some room for improvement. So the last slide says, keep calm, keep traveling, and keep checking the rear side mirrors. In other words, when you design your learning experiences, also design the evaluation of that experience, when to do it and how to do it. Try to embed it in the lessons, if possible, and make it really a conversation with the students, because you want a range of feedback, not just your own views, but also the students and the literature, etc. And the driver here in this picture is sitting in his car and wiping the side mirror. So we can see better when we use these lenses, the 3 UDL principles, not only to design, but to look back and check our design. So because I think we should have some time for questions, I'm going to stop talking. Just one thing is in the chat, if you have access to the chat, please write your main takeaway from this webinar. And thank you very much. Or you can write it on that Padlet, which you also have the link in the chat. So what is your main takeaway? And then in the meanwhile, I'm going to stop sharing. You will get, I'm sure, these slides with the recording, and you will see the resources here about KETSO, about UDL, and my blog posts. So I'm going to stop sharing, and then I'm going to let either Sean or Betsy, if there's anything from the chat and you want to, yeah, you want to tell me.
For the takeaways, we don't have any questions yet, but people are saying wonderful dual level learning from the students' future for the students' future practice. Takeaway, their takeaway was to embed evaluation as part of the course design, and I think we would all agree with that, right? Embed the feedback mechanism into the learning experience, and also another excellent takeaway. Another takeaway is to intentionally design regular course evaluation as a learning task. So I think you've helped people, Virna, to really think about the evaluation and the learning task in conjunction with each other, which is, of course, a great idea. Then says, can you please put the slide on tools up again? They wanted that. I'm
not sure what that means, the tools.
I'm wondering if it might be somebody who
maybe
requires this.
KETSO and the probably about KETSO. Somebody said that they want KETSO.
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
So the last slide, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yes.
And people really like the rear view mirror analogy. Keeping objects larger than they are, thinking about objects as larger than they appear, right?
Oh, yes, that's right. Yes, exactly.
So I don't know if anybody has any questions, or if people want to unmute themselves and ask a question, if they prefer not to type it in, but would just like to ask it verbally. We welcome you to do that at this time. Does anybody have a question they'd like to pose to Virna? This is your chance. We have
There's a hands up function on the top of the bar, so maybe we'll use the hands up function if somebody would like to come in.
Sure. Oh, by the way, as maybe people think about it, there was one question, because I was actually in a breakout room, because I wasn't sure if I was going to, so that was nice to be with some colleagues. And somebody asked, which was a really good question, is the slight issue that there could be with the UDL principle of representation, providing flexibility and variety in input. And the fact that the students perhaps say, oh, no, I actually want the same thing every week. I want to know where I am. I want it predictable, etc. So what we were talking about is the fact that with the UDL principles, it doesn't mean that it's all random, all the time. It doesn't mean it's not organized or structured. In fact, having a consistent, recognizable structure, which actually perhaps also helps form a certain identity for a certain course or cohort, that's actually quite important. It helps students because they can situate themselves. They know, oh, okay, roughly, usually the week works this way. First we do this type of thing, then we do this type of thing, then we end up with this. But the point is, the point of the UDL is not really just to get rid of the structure or the predictability in that sense. It's more about the actual input or the content within that structure. So of course you have a certain course, layout. That's roughly, that's how it works every week. How many hours are live lessons? How many hours are asynchronous? But within the input, instead of, for example, even in this past year of pandemic, there's been so much video. And to be honest, it's exhausting. So if every single week you provide 1 or 2 hours of videos, and perhaps the videos are excellent, but that's all you do every single week, even though it seems innovative, actually it becomes cognitively very, very taxing on students. So UDL is about providing variety. So you will have an article one week, a podcast another week, a video another week, an infographic. So, or dual coding in writing and audiovisual if possible. So it's not always possible, but within
there is
limits.
a question here that's come up from Dawn. It says we have designed in a range of assessment. They've designed a range of assessment choices, but most select writing. Do you have any tips on that, Virna?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yes. So it's interesting to think about why would that be the case? And I can suggest that the case is that usually the evil you know is better than the unknown. So it doesn't mean they choose writing because it's the easiest for them, but they probably choose writing because they have been somehow, used to writing. Perhaps they know the structure of an essay or a written piece, and maybe there is quite a lot of help in terms of academic support, study skill support, exemplars. So they choose somehow the easiest, but not because it's easier for them, but perhaps because they're used to it. So when you provide choice, that's a really good question, actually, because when you provide choice and flexibility, you also have to ask yourself, if I'm asking students to, for example, let's say, okay, they can do a written piece or a video, but have I provided any exemplars of videos? Have they got any idea of what a video would look like, even if it's super simple, but have they seen it? Because if they've never seen it, they might imagine this incredible, high quality tech video, which perhaps they can't quite achieve. So they will revert to what they know better. So I think it's about providing choice, but also providing the exemplars and support for those choices. And that is why it's challenging, because you got to think about all of that and put all of that in place for those choices to be real, if that makes sense.
Well, Virna, thank you so much for this wonderful webinar. I know you've really sparked many different ideas. And there was one question that said, and you probably can't answer it, but they wanted to know where you get all of your energy. And I think we'd all like to know that too. And they want you to bottle it. Okay?
Adrenaline.
So, again, we'd like to thank everyone for attending today. And this is, again, part of a series that we're holding throughout the year, approximately one webinar per month. And our next webinar is going to be on Friday, actually May 21st, not March, it's May 21st. And it will be presented by Linda Yu and Pia Hagblom of Kristianstad University, focusing on the impact of universal design for learning in higher education and the road we are on in Sweden. And you can register for that by going to the Include website. So once again, thank you so much, Virna, Rossi.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Wonderful webinar. The webinar has been recorded and it will be posted within a few days on the Include Collaboratory website. So we appreciate everybody's attendance and thank you very much. I think we're finished.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye now.